Welcome people. Today we're going to discuss the wonderful world of open sourcing and especially how to generate profit out of it. Open source is a relatively new concept in the business world. It describes practices in production and development where free access is given to the source material. Within open source projects, the source material is public. Everybody can have a look at it. So the bigger the community around the project, the better the quality of the project will or should be. Software is currently the biggest part within the open source platform. Operating systems like Linux, but also web browsers like Firefox are examples of open source software. Hardware, on the other hand, is a less developed market. Examples of open source hardware devices are mobile phones, MP3 players, robots and chargers. Within open source projects, the source material is public. Everybody can have a look at it. So the bigger the community is around the project, the better the quality of the project will or should be. Feedback is a very important part of an open source project. Without it, the community aspect simply does not exist. And it becomes impossible to develop a product. The most common way nowadays to collect feedback from a community is to create a forum where people can meet and share their knowledge to improve the project. In open source, there are some pros, also some cons. The information has to be freely accessible for everyone. Like we discussed, by creating a forum you can easily get support, easily access to creators, and of course it's still freely available. Large choice. Almost any major software product has its own open source version. In the cons, we find the depreciation of the inventor's work, but sometimes reach the wrong target. Broke business model. And finally, there is not enough diversity in the open source software products. The 3D printer is a good example of how a company can make profit out of open source products. In this case, they provide all the components needed to build the printer, but you still need strong skills in electronics to build it. By creating a platform where people can exchange ideas, a company can create a goldmine of information. So, open source software is certainly the most developed part. But how to generate profit with open source software? As an open source software creator, you can easily get exposure because your product is free. But you can also use open source software to generate profit. In fact, companies can use open source software like any other software. So this is a way for small businesses to make savings while generating profit. So, open source software is being used worldwide. But how can we generate profit out of open source products? In the software segment, there are opportunities to implement open source software into hardware products and sell it as a product. So if a manufacturer of laptops chooses to provide his laptops with Linux instead of Windows, he saves a lot of money. On the other hand, it's also possible to generate profit out of open source hardware products, as seen as in the example of the 3D printer. In conclusion, open source is being used worldwide. Then why every company isn't already using open source? Mainly because of a false idea. Companies believe that what is created with open source software must be open source. But that is not true. Most of the open source software allows you to do whatever you want with your production. It enabled companies to sell a value-added service with open source software at reduced cost. So, that's it for today. Thanks for your attention.